So what they want to create is part of the characteristic of what they call the new man and the new woman. The social engineers, the Satanists, the dark Luciferians, the mind controllers, doesn't make a difference what you call them. They're the control freaks in this world who think they're God and want to micromanage society and dictate every detail of your lives. They have a phrase. It's called the new man or the new woman. Maybe some of you have heard this. It's an esoteric term. It's not very heard in just, regular circles. But if you look into the occult, you'll come across this term. The new human, okay? And what they want is to create the perfect slave whose soul has actually been broken, that will accept its servitude. Aldous and Julius Huxley talked about this in their work because they were part of these social engineering programs. Edward Bernays talked about this. He worked with the Tavistock Institute of Human Relations, and perverted a lot of Sigmund Freud's psychological tactics and techniques. But they want to create beings, ultimately, long-term, that have lost the ability to feel anger. I'm going to say lost the ability to feel any kind of anger, but especially sacred anger. They don't want people expressing the sacred anger of righteous indignation. People who cannot become angry regarding the current human condition of slavery have literal brain damage. I'm going to say that again, and I really want you to listen to what I'm saying. It's not metaphorical, and I'm very serious. People who have lost the ability to become angry have literal brain damage, provably, scientifically provably, through chronic brain imbalance in one hemisphere of the neocortical brain or the other. Whether you become left brain imbalance or you become right brain imbalance to such an extent, you can actually lose the ability to feel anger. And this is done through epiogenics, action at a distance, mind control sorcery, and it's done through chemical warfare, which we are under, and electromagnetic warfare, and the war on the chemical known as testosterone also. Chemical war, which is actually a life essence, okay? As important for women as it is for men, and many people don't know that. Chemical warfare through food, water, and pharmaceuticals attack the parts of the human biological system which create a healthy brain and healthy emotional responses. So they are targeting the part of the brain that would ordinarily function correctly to produce the correct emotional responses in people. They want to break that part of the brain, and they have done it to a large extent. This result can also be produced through epigenetic means, through mind control. The goal sought by the social engineers of the ruling class is to disrupt the limbic brain, what is called the mammalian brain or the midbrain, the limbic system of the human brain, so that it will no longer produce the necessary neuropeptides required to generate emotions which the social engineers do not wish to see expressed in the population. And yes, this can be done and is actively being done. This process can actually be likened to a partial chemical lobotomy, but they're actually doing it through what they're putting in the water, what they're putting in our food, what they're bombarding us with electromagnetically, and what is in pharmaceutical drugs that people are unfortunately still taking. Those who have fallen prey to this control technique and have therefore lost the ability to feel righteous anger are actually broken souls. They have not just broken the brain or the mind. Doing what they have done to people to remove their ability to feel anger has actually broken them at a soul level. So they are broken souls who have been purged of a sacred gift which was actually their birthright as a human being. Such people who can no longer even become angry are the problem. Through their spiritual weakness, they have allowed themselves to become broken. See, again, I look at it like I almost did a disservice to this community by talking so much about mind control techniques, because a lot of people kind of reacted like, woe is us. Oh, poor us. We've been under this, sorcerer's attack for so many generations. But we have to stop looking at it like that. We're willful participants in this. When we allow ourselves to become spiritually weak and there's no shielding against these attacks, then we easily fall prey. That's like, a couple of animals, wild animals run in and you just lay down and say, eat me. With no resistance. That's what most of the human population has done. So people like that they've allowed themselves to become broken physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. They can no longer feel and process the full range of human emotional responses. They have become casualties of covert biological warfare. Occult biological warfare is what this is. Okay? This is truly silent weapons for quiet wars. The socially engineered, they have become casualties of covert biological warfare waged upon the populace through silent weaponry. The socially engineered annihilation of the sacred gift of anger is creating a society of apathetic souls who don't care about the destruction of their own freedom or the freedom of others. And this is who we in this room must reach and heal. The brain and even the soul have high levels of plasticity, meaning they can recover from things that you would imagine they would never be able to recover from. Look up the plasticity of the brain, the plasticity of the mind. See, that's part of programmability, is that it's flexible. That's what plasticity means. It can be molded, shaped. And if it's even broken and torn apart, it can come back together. It can be reassembled, reunited with truth. Possible? Yes. Easy? No. I never said that it would be easy. It's extremely difficult work. That's why it's not called the one big happy-go-lucky party. It's called the one great work. And that is what we are here to do. Look, never having even the ability to feel anger, right? I want to just talk about what it would be like from an allegorical perspective. And, this is going to hit home with some people, right? Imagine, it's 1770, the Boston Massacre is actively happening. British soldiers who have been quartered in people's houses and are stealing things from people, raping people, bursting into their home, just taking over their home and family life, at the behest of a psychopathic king who thinks he's God, thinks he's the representative of God on earth, are now shooting American colonists in the street. And you can go on and on about why you think it started. It's irrelevant. They were actively gunning down in the streets of Boston American colonists. And you can imagine this taking place and people seeing their loved ones and friends die on the street right in front of them. And then one of them who's actively being oppressed looks at one of the other ones who's like all enraged about it and goes, I just don't understand why you're so angry. Just can't conceive of this, This is the people that say, I don't understand how you're so angry about this situation. Why don't you just teach it in a nice, calm, dispassionate voice? Ladies and gentlemen, the human condition is slavery. Really? Is that genuine? Is that a genuine emotional response? We have to decondition ourselves to this shit because that's what it is. It's bullshit. It is literally like this, okay? When I was making this presentation, this is the slide that I had in mind from the very beginning, this next one. And it should make people angry. Imagine back in the Civil War era during black slavery when slaves were being held against their will on plantations and forced to work under treacherous, insane conditions, and they would be viciously whipped, treated, tied up with chains, put in steel boxes in hot weather conditions, like ridiculous, eaten alive by dogs if they didn't comply. Dogs sicked on them until they were literally mauled to death. And other heinous atrocities, being strappadoed. This is a form of strappadoing. Although they would usually do it with the hands behind the back and then pull the person up on the rope before they whip them. That's the actual real strappado method. But imagine seeing a situation within, this is a tame drawing, folks. What it really looked like, you probably would not want to see, okay? Imagine a slave strappadoed and then a house slave who got better treatment than the rest of the slaves. It wasn't a field slave. He lived in the master's house and got better treatment, better food, better clothing, okay? And then all he had to do was keep the other slaves in line so the masters didn't have to hire other people to do it. That was the house slave's job. You know, they're the military and police of our day. You know, the house slaves of our day are the police and the military. Get as offended about that statement as you like. That's exactly what the situation is. But imagine other slaves on the plantation watching this scene of barbarity and brutality take place right before their eyes, which any of them knowing they could be next if they stepped out of line. And one of them turning to the horror, the look of horror of the woman, the women in front of him, and saying, I just don't understand why you're so angry. Imagine this. This is exactly what I feel like when I get this dumb fucking statement from people. Because that, I'm just going to call it what it is. It's people with, you know, that are as dumb as 10 pounds of shit in a 5-pound sack. Okay? Really. You know, to put it in street language. You know, that's what they sound like to me. That's how stupid they sound. Why would you be so angry about human beings being enslaved and losing their rights? Can't imagine why that would bring up a seemingly negative emotional response of anger. No, that wouldn't be justified or correct. Folks, my level of anger is normal under the current human condition. If the condition were not slavery, I would not express the level of anger that I do. But the truth is, the condition is slavery. And the correct emotional response is to be angry about it, so much so that you do something to end that immoral condition.